Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Healing with Coherence podcast. I'm Mikhail, I'm your host. And as usually, I'll be taking you through another conversation with someone that has been looking into the way how healing and healing technology and our understanding as humanity of what health means has been transforming in these days. And I believe that we all that have been interested in that area are happy to see that the understanding of how human health actually works, how we as human beings are able to achieve health in our bodies and what health means has been going through this tremendous transformation. And my guest is not an exception. I mean, the guest that I'm going to introduce to you today is not an exception actually to this formula. My guest today is Mads Tömörkènyi. Mads is a Copenhagen-based researcher specializing in biomechanics, longevity, and anthropology. So he combines anatomy, physiology, sports science, and years of experience in working with top athletes all around the world. Mads underwent his own transformation when he was in the early beginnings of 2010. He was working as a classical sports therapist or sports scientist with his clients. He underwent a process of deep realization that his work and his outlook on the world needs to take a change. He followed that feeling and he reached to a new stage and a new understanding of how he needs to start working with his clients. He started studying, he started reading books, he started researching and gradually developing his own methodology in how he can actually be supporting his clients into achieving their best version, into achieving a ultimate well-being and happiness of being in a healthy and well-functioning body. So what this reflected into is what Mads calls today the quantum biomechanics course, which consists of 7 different areas focused on reviving the body, reviving the mind, and reimagining the body and our organism as one interconnected and coherent system. I'm very happy to introduce you to Mads Tömörkènyi today. So without any further ado, let's go and meet him and enjoy the conversation. Okay, Mads, hello. Welcome to Healing with Coherence. It's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. I'm doing fine, thanks. And how about you?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to talking to you and to connecting. I already shared before we started recording that I'm myself an athlete, long life athlete and mover. And I was really impressed by your work and by what I've seen from the content that you put out. And I was really looking forward to connect with you and see where, our understanding of life and athleticism and healthy athleticism is overlapping. I think there will be quite a lot.
Yeah.
And my purpose of this interview with you is to understand better your philosophy, your way of thinking, how you got to where you are at, and how have you been working with athletes and how you have been helping them to take a better care of their health. Because you maybe agree, competitive sport is not a healthy activity, right?
Oh, for sure.
So, what is your Mads? What is your background, please? Can you introduce me to your background, because I'm really impressed by your work. So, how did you get to where you are at? Actually, what is your background in athleticism and sports?
Well, I've been in this field for between 10 and 15 years now. I'm not that much into athleticism and sports anymore, but that's
Okay.
part of my history, I guess. Because I was in the mainstream fitness industry for 12 years ago, I guess. My career started there. But I was incoherent, like something didn't add up. It was like, first of all, my private life was a mess, but also my business life. It was just like, it didn't make sense for me and I didn't make any results. I actually had a good business. I had some big clients, some big football players, trained with many of the biggest athletes around the world, which I still to this day do. But my lifestyle and my business was quite different. So I ended up getting a depression back then. I think it was 2014. And I think that was a wake up call for me, like the universe saying to me, like, your lifestyle is fucked up. So if you don't want to do anything about it, we have to do it for you. And I guess that's how the universe works. Like, if you don't fix your issues yourself, the universe will make that decision for you. So in my depression, I had to withdraw from everything, from my business, from my work, from my private life, and figure out what life was about. So I guess that was part of the journey for me back then, to reconsider what life really was about. So I read a lot of history, I read a lot of ancient mysteries, and I've basically found that nothing made sense. Like, everything that I've been taught in school was basically flawed. So I started studying the Egypt pyramids and all the ancient monuments around the world, and figure out how astonishing they were. So my conclusion was that we either were much more advanced back then than we are today, or there was extraterrestrial intervention included into all these ancient mysteries. But either way, we don't have the full picture. So I thought, okay, well, if we don't know where we come from, we have no idea where we are heading, basically. And I kind of transferred that to my work with the human body, and figured out that if we don't know how the human body is meant to function, then how are we going to take it from there? And I knew that we had a lot more potential that we were led to believe. So that was kind of my introduction into uncovering the immense potential of the human body. So I researched further into this history, and more into the medical history, and in particularly the intervention of Rothschilds and Rockefellers into the kind of shaping the medical industry as it is today. Because I wondered why so many people were so ill. Like, we are led to believe that we are so healthy, and yes, we live longer in average, but we aren't healthier. So that was part of my discovery, and I went down this rabbit hole and found that basically the reason why we have this reductionistic world today with pharmaceuticals, with the medical industry, basically is because of this history starting in 1911 with the Rockefeller, the most powerful man on the planet back then, going into the medical industry and basically gaining the power, controlling their curriculums. So knowing that kind of gave me the answers to where we were supposed to head if we want to fix human health. Because it's not reductionism, it's vitalism. Vitalism, which was dominant in the human history from the 19th century and before that. So we have to consider human health from a holistic perspective. Natural medicine, natural movement, natural food, natural everything, which is basically the opposite of where we are today. So that was kind of an eye-opener for me, and I quickly went out of my depression when I realized that there's much, much more to life than this basic little black and white existence that we've been led to believe. I accelerated my knowledge within the human body, and my business accelerated because I could find new answers all of a sudden, because fitness is all about diet and physical exercise. And you can master them, but still you can't master the holistic picture of the human body, why you can never resolve any issues just by mastering fitness and diet. So I began investigating in these holistic principles, holistic medicine, sunlight, circadian biology. And in 2019, I discovered fascia, which I've never been taught about in school before. So in fact, fascia isn't just this dead tissue that you don't want to have anything to do with in the human body. It's a living tissue, and it's potentially responsible for much, much more than we think. Maybe even consciousness, maybe even memory storage. I think within the next 10 or 15 years, we will discover much, much more about fascia. But this led me into this new venture about human biomechanics, which I thought was controlled by muscles, but indeed is controlled by fascia. So we aren't muscle-powered animals, we are fascia-powered animals. And I guess the difference from 2019 to today is that I've discovered now that fascia is a quantum coherence machine, basically. So it can transmit energy, it is bioelectrical, it can signal messaging at the speed of light, which is the fastest communication network in the human body. So I guess that's what led me to where I am today, and I kind of had to find my own answers. Because I've been in school for as long as every other human being, but the answers that I've really been found to be profound, I found via reading books on my own.
Mads, I don't know if you've been watching my face, because I know when you started talking, I was listening, very concentrated. Then gradually, this smile starting getting up, because you've been talking out of my heart. Basically what you shared. There have been a lot of points that I connect with, actually, from the very beginning that you started by. Just because before I came in, I was writing the captions for a post that I'm about to make on my social media, and there have been along this idea to speak a little bit about the way how we are supposed to be working constructively with emotions. And one of the emotions is sadness, which actually can transform into depression. And you described exactly the constructive way of working with that emotion. It is basically sitting down, digging deep inside of yourself, looking for what are the signs that life has been showing you, what you need to change in your life, because that's an impulse towards changing something in your life, the way you've been living, and then taking the steps towards actually materializing that. So this is amazing. That's exactly a constructive way to work with that emotion. Instead of taking pills in order to suppress your feelings and pretend that everything is all right and I'm not in depression anymore.
Yeah.
Which has been the way that the reductionist, Rothschild sponsored or Rockefeller sponsored medicine basically has been the way they've been working with emotions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like something that you don't have to feel that, you have the right to be happy. So, just put it aside, bring the pills, and just go and enjoy life.
Yeah, but we got to understand that it's all a business, because life wasn't normally like this. This started in the beginning of the 20th century. We've always been based on vitalism, on eating what we can find in nature. But we got to understand that this was a business for the most powerful people on earth. And luckily, we can have this conversation today. And many people have this conversation. So it means that we're moving slowly away from reductionism again and back to vitalism, where we're actually taking nature into consistence or into consideration. And also, I think that the Rockefellers utilized Darwin and Newton into this, because Newtonian physics is a lot about reductionism, like mechanism, seeing the human as a robot with the biochemicals and all that stuff. That was perfect for Rockefeller, because he wanted that viewpoint in order to push his big pharma forwards. And the same with Darwin, that that everything is just random. That we live, we die, we don't cooperate, we compete to survive. Where the answer is actually the opposite, that we cooperate to survive. But by pushing these narratives, he could really, really gain power. And I think that's also why we are so depressed in the Western world today, because we believe that everything is just random, that we live up to this physical biochemical body, and we're basically victims. There is nothing we can do. But that's not truth, right? Exactly. We can basically do everything that we want, and we are basically in control of our own lives and our own futures, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's exactly about, like the I can see the business model behind it is dividing the body to these not connected basically units, and then focusing on each of that units and finding the mechanism of how you can influence that these units. Right?
Yeah.
You go to the hospital and you have different not cooperating units. The doctors even don't cooperate between each other. Okay, so I'm exactly. A doctor which is focusing on kidneys, and I'm just killing kidneys, nothing else. So here you have your pills for the kidneys, or we'll change your kidneys if you want, right?
Yeah.
But it's so amazing that you say that. I've seen as well that actually we are moving away from that. I mean, it's a slow process, but there are so many people that are moving away from that point. And actually, how I got to you was through the content that I be seeing of Human Garage, which are working with the fascia as well. And then I found you, and then I see that you've been working in a very similar way with the fascia as they do, but you have all your understanding of everything around that. But my point is that there are so many people and organizations that are actually starting to look into this holistic way of working and cooperating with the body, because it is more about cooperating with the body rather than trying to solve the body, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we can draw many parallels from that and into the world of fascia, because again, the mainstream world sees a body of muscles. And if you see a body of muscles, you will see 600 isolated muscles. And with that view in mind, you would think, okay, based on everything I know, based on the reductionism, based on Newton, based on the biochemical nature, then I can see a body separated into bits and pieces. Okay, so if we have 600 muscles, we must train them in 600 different ways, But the problem is the fascia doesn't work like that, because enclosed on these muscles are the fascia. This means that it's not the muscles that are responsible for how our bodies work, it's the fascia. So the fascia is the responsible part of our entire body. And the fascia is not 600 units, it's 1 unit. All right? So this means that we cannot isolate different body parts. Like if we try to isolate the biceps by doing biceps curls, we are actually just isolating a part of the fascia that is enveloping the biceps. And if we keep doing this, which the bodybuilding and fitness culture is doing, we will overstress this little fascial sheet, because it's designed to work with the entire body. So over time, we will create stressors which will impair the hydration flow into the fascia. And this is where the problems come. So we have to escape this isolated way of viewing the body, because it doesn't work like that. It's an agenda that has been forced down on us it's to avoid that we make progress as a species. Because if we already know the answers for ourselves, we wouldn't need a doctor, we wouldn't need medicine. So I guess, luckily, we are escaping that path now, so we don't need the medical industry that much anymore.
Mads, I'm having goosebumps, really. I mean, you are touching on you are basically describing my own understanding in a way that I've been coming to it through the last 4 or 5 years. This is Healing with Coherence podcast, which I started 2 years ago. I started in cooperation with friends of mine that we've been working together under the umbrella of a company we founded, which is called Radiant Life Technologies. But in 2020, I started my own local podcast, which is called Athletic Longevity. It's in Czech. I'm based in the Czech Republic. And Athletic Longevity has been actually my journey into finding that holistic concept of movement, of looking into the body as a whole unit, and so on. So basically, when you were describing that understanding of the body as a holistic, unified unit, and the fascia being that one unit which actually unifies everything, my own journey into understanding that has been really intuitive. So I really believe that actually that understanding now has been into the web of life, and people that have been listening to the web of life and being open to the impulse of the web of life. They've been intuitively getting that understanding, because that's my way. I've been watching a lot of different people, following them, watching videos, and picking up bits and pieces from their work and incorporating it into mine. I used to be a bodybuilder when I was 20. So from 20 to 26, 7 years old, I was a bodybuilder. So I would be training exactly in the isolated way. So, you have these 3 or 4 muscle groups a day, or a training session, even 2 of them you train. Basically, the very reductionist way of understanding. Today, what I'm doing is basically, yes, it is the holistic movement, which is focused on understanding the fascia as the organism you described. So it is holistic, and I see that actually it works perfectly well for strength, for mobility, for stamina, for everything. I don't need to reduct, the muscles to individual units. So that's why I'm saying, I'm just describing why I'm having the goosebumps when I'm listening to you, because that's the way how I've been experiencing it myself. And this leads me to another question. Do you see a greater purpose of actually we as humanity being led to finding that holistic view on our bodies, and maybe understanding as well that we are also interconnected and that we are
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about that a lot. And I think there's a greater purpose or greater meaning with that, because when we exit the Newtonian physics area, we have to enter a new one, and that new area is the quantum physics realm. So the quantum physics is based all about this that we talk about. Actually, quantum physics is based on spirituality bridging with science. Because what does quantum physics show to us? It shows that everything is entangled, that you can take 2 particles, split them into each part of the universe, and they will still be able to connect and to communicate with each other. So what does this mean? This means that everything that exists comes from the same units. So everything is connected. And what does this prove? It proves that basically there is a creator, or there is a God, there is a something, because everything started with this one thing that spread out, and now everything in the universe is entangled, is connected. So I guess this is the area that we are entering now, and we are figuring out that we are all connected basically through love. So I think there's a meaning with that. And I think that's the good part of the story, is that this is where we're going now. And hopefully all this crazy shit around us with war and politics and opposition is not going to interrupt that beautiful part of life.
Absolutely, I hope very much so as well. I see what has been going now in the world as a necessary process of let's say detoxification, probably, of the system as such, because there has been so many negative energy generated that it needs to somehow materialize and being processed. So it is a kind of a process of processing that energy. Somebody could call it karma, right? There is a karma which has been built on, which needs to be somehow processed. And I believe that this leads to a better understanding of life, and to a better, let's say, starting point of building something new. You've touched on basically everything being interconnected by love. In my vocabulary, and as well, let's say, teachings that I've been following, which are the Toltec teachings. Love is described as well as intent. Intent is actually the all-connected glue that is interconnecting all life. But basically, it is a love. It is love. In whatever way we understand love, because there is so many different levels of people understanding what love is. But I would leave to anyone to try connect with their own feeling of what love is. But I resonate very much with what you're sharing. Mats, if we go towards actually where this has been leading you and what you have been doing today, how all this has changed your view of how you started working with your clients from where you used to be before, when you got into
Sure.
nutrition and
Yeah. Well, like I said, I started being a lot in the mainstream fitness industry, so I focused on the same thing, like diet and physical exercise. That was what we could do. And in terms of the physical exercise, we were isolating the body almost into bits and pieces. So that was where I found that there is missing something here. Okay, I can get them to run faster. Yes, I can get them to jump higher. Yes, I can make them do a heavier back squat than that they were used to do, and I can give them a diet plan that someone once taught me should be the right thing to do. So I started to question these things mainly because my athletes stagnated. Like they become better on paper. Maybe their injury risk was like declined a little bit, but something was missing. So that was there in 2019 that I found fascia and figured out that fascia was this interconnected tissue that binds everything together in the human body, that I started to change these things. So instead of focusing on isolating the body into bits and pieces, I figured out that we had to somehow involve some multidimensional movement into the human body. Because not only is the fascia a single unit that binds the whole body together, but this single unit is divided into sheets that follows different muscle patterns. So I studied these sheets, which is called the myofascial meridians, and actually resembles the acupuncture meridians almost to perfection. So I studied these meridians and I thought, if the human body is connected into these pathways, it must mean that there must be some kind of force transmission through these pathways. And if so, we need to move in specific ways in order to utilize the body the most efficient way. So I figured out that these pathways actually were force transmitting pathways, meaning that they can transmit force during movements. So what I found was that these pathways resembled a lot what humans were meant to do in terms of movements. And what were we meant to do from an evolutionary perspective? We were meant to walk, run, hunt, gather food, and farm, basically. So these very upright, erected, multidimensional movements. So I found a link here between our evolutionary movement pattern involvements and to the myofascial meridians. So I basically immediately changed my system from being very isolated to moving into these more multidimensional movement planes, meaning, for example, rotation, a lot of upper body involved with lower body movements, and in general, these very complex movements. And all of a sudden, my clients' postures started to change. Like they became higher. They started jumping remarkably higher. Their muscle mass weren't affected that much. Like they didn't become so much more muscular or so much bigger, but their performance and injury prevention was dramatically increased. So I can actually teach this one. So this is basically the reason, right? Because in traditional fitness, we only think about these sticks. These are the bones. So we think that the bones are holding the entire system together. But in fact, the fascia, the strings are holding the entire system together. So you can see when we move one bone, the entire system remodels, right? So this means that even the slightest affections on the fascia will affect the entire system. So we need somehow to be aligned in our fascia in order for our posture to move along. So if we isolate our bodies like we do in traditional fitness and overtrains and stresses individual spots, we will create these restrictions that are making the posture fall apart. So rule number one is always align the myofascial system, because then you will create tensegrity, you will create balance, which will improve, first of all, the posture. It will also decompress the structure, which was what I saw in my clients becoming higher. So that was really the eye-opener for me. So I started involving more fascial work into our systems, more myofascial releases, which is releasing pre-existing traumas in the fascia. So there was these two parts now, the releasing the restrictions in the fascia, but also moving more multidimensionally in respect with the fascia. So fast forward today, I have developed a system called quantum biomechanics, which is my patented training method that is bridging nature, bridging quantum physics with biomechanics, which is basically what I just talked about, going back to where we were meant to be, both in terms of getting sunlight, eating natural foods, moving the way our ancestors did multidimensionally. So I've developed these 7 stages of improving the human body into this system called quantum biomechanics, which at the base is releasing the myofascia, which is the 101. Extremely important, because if you have restrictions in the myofascia, you cannot expect the fascia to become optimized, like to move better or to become decompressed. And then we have improving breathing, improving posture, something I've developed called biofeedback, which is basically integrating a better function into the muscles. Then we have sustainable mobility. In contrast to mainstream mobility, this is not just passive stretching, this is contraction-based stretching. So this means kind of moving within longer ranges of motion, because this is creating sustainable increases in range of motion instead of just doing some random yoga move that has no correlation to real human movements. And then the 6th state is improved biomechanics, like I just said, moving in multidimensional movement patterns. And the last stage is fascial recoil, which is integrating elasticity into the fascia. Like when you go up to a gym, you see people jumping on boxes and trying to run faster and jump higher. This is actually fascial recoil. So considering that my stage 7 is fascial recoil, and you need all the preceding phases completed first, it's kind of astonishing that the first thing people do is go up to the gym and jump. Because, it's like driving a car on a flat tire. You need to fix the tire first before you can expect to optimize. And that's what we missed today. We all drive on a flat tire, basically.
Well, that's very well said. That's very well said. Absolutely, that's how I see it. And if I go back to where you started about all this finding and reviving all these natural patterns of reviving the body. Just the other day, it's Tuesday, so it was, I think it was Sunday, or maybe it was actually, no, it's Wednesday. Okay, I'm all mixed around days. I think it was yesterday morning. I went out with my dog for a walk, and we went to the forest. And she's a hunter. Okay, so whenever she finds a track, she just gets crazy, and she forgets about any orders and behaving, and she's gone. But I have the GPS tracker on her because of that, right? So I was waiting for her for a little while in the forest, and then I saw that she's just running away, and I was afraid that she's gonna run back home, which is a little bit dangerous, could be, because there are streets and stuff like that. And then I decided, okay, I'm gonna run after her, and we'll have to meet somewhere in the forest. So I started running in the forest, and it's basically a mixed terrain. So up and down and through the trees and bushes, the leaves on the ground, watching just the GPS to meet her. And I guess that's very much, how the old hunters have been running through the forest, right?
Yeah.
It was actually, I'm exercising, and I'm doing some kind of exercise, or I'm moving every day in a way. Yesterday, I decided, well, I'm gonna rest for the day. I might do just some little work at home. Well, movement found myself, by itself, found me in the forest. So I had a beautiful hunting run. I found the dog. Of course, we reconnected and went home. But I was excited after that, because it was just a natural movement, and I felt I had my work out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But in a very natural way for the body. So
well, you describe it beautifully, and that's exactly what's wrong with us today, because you have this terrain outside. You move in fresh air. You hunt your dog. You move up and down hills with the forest and the sunlight. Like today, we think that aiming for health is going up to a gym with a flat floor, with machines, a treadmill you can run on shoes, under blue lights, being extremely unnatural, very artificial, with electromagnetic pollution. Like, this is the exact opposite of the environment that we come from. Like, we think that we can make artificial environments and put humans into these environments and somehow believe that we can optimize them. And I don't understand why this is not logic to everyone. Like, why isn't it logic that you drive your car up to a gym, put on your shoes, take the elevator up, and run on a treadmill instead of just running outside or dropping your shoes, doing some kettlebell workouts on the grass, something like that. I don't say you have to do it always. I understand that there's always snow sometimes. There is winters and there is seasons and there's situations that we need to respect. But like from a standard perspective, we somehow believe that we can, like, putting animals in a zoo and then expect them to become healthier. That's basically what we do with humans. So I think you hit it pretty good right there with your anecdote about the running in the forest. Yeah.
Mads, how do you see the or maybe how do you then work with your athletes? Okay, well, I'm saying athletes because I'm interested specifically in people that are interested in improving their performance. What would be your ideal perspective about a place where to work? Is it only outside? If it's not outside, what would be the inside environment where you have been training with your people, for example?
Well, the great thing about technology is that we can use it to support us, to replicate the natural environment in times where we need it. So if we use technology to replicate nature and always use that replication, that's not good. But for example, now it's spring here in Denmark. The weather is getting better. So we can move outside now. We can drop our shoes, take our dumbbells outside, kettlebells outside, the massage table outside, basically do everything outside. But say from October to March, it's pretty fucking cold. And it's raining and it's stormy and snowing maybe. So you cannot move outside for very long before you get frostbites on your feet, basically. So in these periods, I have created an inside environment, in this case in my gym, where instead of having blue lights only, we have red lights. We have full spectrum bulbs, meaning that you don't just get the blue light like you do from normal LED lights. You get the blue, you get the red, and sometimes also get the UV. So kind of replicate what you can find in nature. And the same way with the floor, I have grounding mats on my floor, so you can actually be grounded while you're on the floor. So you get a replication of sunlight and you get a replication of the grounding effects from Earth while being indoor. So that's the environment that I'm in now, where I've been so fortunate to be able to build my own gym. And I also think it's important to note that use technology when it's not possible to use nature, or replicate nature when it's not possible to use it. But if you overuse it, you're very stupid.
That's great that you are opening the area of the technology, because that's something that I wanted to touch on with you.
Yeah.
It actually gives me the opportunity to compare and to share with you as well what we've been doing in Radiant Life Technologies and why this podcast is called Healing with Coherence. Because not for any other reason, but I'm really curious to see how this compares with what you do and what technologies you use. Because you mentioned now, for example, color light, you mentioned red light, which is now being widely used. And basically, we called the podcast Healing with Coherence because actually the therapy that we introduced at Radiant Life Technologies 15 years ago is called COMRA, which stands for Coherence Achieved Through Modulation of Different Radiances.
Mhm.
Basically, very simply said, it's a therapy which is applied through a device which combines 4 different electromagnetic therapies or modalities. It's infrared laser light of very low intensity. It's magnetism. It's sequences of color LED light, and it's ultrasound. And basically, the trick is that all these components are, through a software, are combined in a complete coherence. So the electromagnetic current that comes out of the device has a complete coherent pattern. So it introduces coherence into the body, into the I wanted to say not fascia, but into the matter of the body, basically. So whatever.
Like into the cells, the mitochondrial area, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, like, for example, today, red light is very widely used in the biohacking environment. And from my understanding, from actually having been working with COMRA therapy for 15 years, I see that this is very one-sided approach as well, because red light has a certain impact on the body. It's activating the body, it's activating the processes, but the processes have a different corresponding to different light frequencies as well, and color frequencies.
Mhm.
So that's why, for example, in the color sequences of the sequencing of the device of the COMRA therapy, we use 4 different colors. It's red light, it is yellow, green light, and then it's ultraviolet light, right?
Mhm.
And each of them, it has a different impact in the different to support different processes of the body. What is your experience with red light? Tell me, for example, and how do you see the rest of the color palette, for example? I mean, and do you tend to use it in some way, in your environment, or you don't work at all with this kind of technologies?
Well, I use red light a lot, and for different purposes. I have red bulbs, which is only red light around the 650 nanometers wavelengths. That doesn't have too much of a healing effect, but it has an effect on your circadian rhythm. So, for example, before dawn, before the sun rises, I only use these red bulbs because they are more simulating to the upcoming sun that normal bulbs would be, because when the sun rises, it's more red dominant. So before sunrise and after sunset, I only use these red bulbs to simulate more of the sunlight and really to get as much blue light away as possible. Because we all know that blue light is mostly dominant when the sun is highest on the sky. So we want to avoid that when there's no sun at all. So that's how I use the lights. That's basically to calibrate my circadian rhythm and to tell my brain which hormones to send or to produce at what times. Then I use infrared therapy as well, which are the longer wavelengths of light, like 830 and above, basically. And I use that for several reasons. Like I see infrared therapy as regeneration, whether this is for your skin, for your hair, for your nails, for whatever, because infrared can penetrate the entire body, meaning it can affect every single part of your body. And we all know that it powers the mitochondria, so the powerhouse of the cells. So it can have immense benefits on healing your mitochondria. So whatever your issues are, basically, you can benefit from doing infrared therapy. And also there's a whole discussion about water, which is very interesting, because the water inside our bodies is generally negatively charged, meaning it carries electrons. That's also why you cannot just chuck water for the entire day and expect to become hydrated, because that water doesn't replicate the water that is made by the mitochondria. So in order for the mitochondria to make negatively charged water, it needs infrared lights. So, of course, you get that simply by the sun. The sun is the most powerful thing. But like we talked about before, if we want to replicate the sun, we can use infrared therapy. So if you want to make sure that you charge the water inside your body, for example, that you want to hydrate your fascia with, make sure that you use infrared therapy to charge this water. So that's what I use. But again, never forget that you can get all these benefits merely from being outside in the sun. But at times when there's no sun, when the sun simply is too weak, if you're inside on the office for an entire day, something like that, use these replication methods. And I've also said this before, but if I had to choose one thing within the entire health field, that would be an infrared panel, because you can basically heal, fix anything with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very much my experience as well. Just by using a different modality, which is actually the chemotherapy, but the principles are very similar.
Yeah.
And like, I'm really happy and positive about humanity starting to open up to red light therapy as such.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in fact, red light therapy, it was introduced, or it was invented in the 60s, where a Hungarian doctor, by the way, doing a research on mice, using an infrared laser, he found out that he wasn't actually looking at all for the healing purposes of the laser. He was doing something else, but he had to cut the mice and to open them and keep them alive. And he found out that actually the cut after the surgery, and also the coat of the mice, when the infrared laser was implemented for some completely other reason, it would heal much more quicker than usually when it wasn't used.
Was this Albert St. George?
I don't remember the name of the doctor. It is quite possible, yeah. But my point is, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, my point is that actually, like the infrared laser therapy, and then actually, they started exploring the possibilities of how infrared laser could be used for healing and supporting the body and regenerating and so on. So this technology has been here around us actually since the 60s, like 70s, 80s. It has a huge growth. By the way, a lot of research has been done in the ex-Soviet Union. For some reason, they've been as well. There is a Russian or Soviet Union therapy called MIL therapy, which uses the infrared laser. But as well, they started experimenting with other modalities which were interconnected with that, like the magnetism. And ultrasound, and that's where actually chemotherapy came later, but it's not a Russian or Soviet therapy, but it has the roots there. And it's only now, like the last 5-6 years, people started opening up and started using the red light therapy and admitting that actually it has a positive effect to them. It's amazing how we've been waking up, as a humanity, a group of people, basically, to what has been around, for so many years. But obviously, the time needs to be to ripe.
Yeah, well, but I also think that too many people have been failed by the medical system, and I think that's also why we see so many health influencers out there, which is basically what I am as well, because so many people have found that no one's here to fix me. Like, we grew up thinking that, okay, we can just go to the doctor and they will fix us. But I guess the collective consciousness have found that you cannot just go to a doctor and expect them to fix you. You will stay in the medical loop as long as you remain a slave to the system. So I guess it's this collective wakefulness that have made us so engaged in trying to find the answers for ourselves, which has opened up this field of, for example, infrared therapy or other natural modalities to fix our bodies, because we have been forced to find the issues or the answers to our issues ourselves, which is kind of also participating in this realm that we've been talking for the last hour about, the thing that we are entering right now into the quantum realm, the coherence, the cooperative realm. So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah. And it's also, you touched on another point. It is very much about reintroducing the self-sufficiency, because we are all interconnected. We are representing one unit as a humanity, and at the same time, each of us is actually expected and supposed to be self-sufficient on its own. And the purpose behind that, for me, what I feel, is actually to claim our own power as individuals, to claim our own potential, because only by developing our own potential as individuals, we can be the best contributors to the whole as well. Otherwise, living all life with just being living in that state of mind that we are dependent on some external powers to take care of ourselves, we are just useless for the organism, right? I mean, okay, well, I'm here, take care of me. I need your help.
Yeah.
So self-sufficiency, and all these technologies are providing the self-sufficiency. And how do you work with self-sufficiency with your clients? Because you are guiding them towards something, you are showing them how to take care of themselves. At what point you give the space for them to take over and to go their own way?
Well, I think the best teachers are the ones who can provide education and not just a pre-planned program. So the whole basis for me is to educate them in taking care of themselves. So if I can just see them one time, that's fine for me. That means that my job has been done. So if they don't come back after one time because they are able to take care of themselves, then I think I've made a good job. So I guess that's the baseline, and also back to what you say, that we don't want to be dependent upon anyone else. That's kind of the same way I see this industry of health. But again, I am providing a foundation for fitness that is very different from the one you see in a gym. So it's requiring time, it's requiring effort and education to come into my place, basically, because it's not that simple as to go up to a gym and then have a blueprint for what you can do. Basically go from one machine to the next, and then you have done your program. This is an entirely new way of understanding and treating the human body. So yeah, I guess self-sufficiency is a big part of my system and what I teach. But again, I also have to acknowledge that this is an entirely new way of understanding the human body, so it takes time. And also when people come to me, I don't optimize them, I fix them. So I would say 99% of all people have issues that are rooted in modern sedentary lifestyle, trauma, toxification within the body and all that stuff. So when people come to me, we are not just optimizing. We are getting back to the roots, back to the child state. Because when most people are born, or when people are born, most of them don't have any issues. They know how to walk, they know how to run, they know how to move in very weird movement planes. They don't feel the same pain as us. Children are just superhuman. So that's the state that we want to return to, because the key is really that if we can make our children remain in this untraumatized superhuman state, they will be amazing. So that's what I try to do with people, but of course we cannot fully return to that state. So I guess the most important part of our job as a species is to educate our people or our children not to go through the same mistakes that we did. Like that's the same I do with my daughter. I try to mitigate trauma for her, of course. I cannot fully control that, but I can control how she moves. I can control how much television she's seeing. So I can basically control the outcome of her biomechanics to a very big degree. So she don't have to go through all these reversal stages of development that we as adults have to do.
Mads, I've been thinking as well, when there, like now I mentioned before the term biohacking. And that's something that, has been now very modern. People talk about a lot about biohacking, and I have a problem with that word, because actually not with the word, but I have a problem with the mindset behind that. Because for me, biohacking has been very much around the understanding, general understanding is around different body marks that we can measure and follow, and we find, and we're looking for ways how to influence them so that we have a better marks. Okay, so it is very mechanical. It is still, within that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's my general kind of misunderstanding with the biohacking community. You mentioned, and what I've been missing there as well is actually the soul. And you talked about the connection with that higher power at the beginning of our conversation. You mentioned God as one of the ways, or the creator. Do you try as well to introduce that connection in the work with your clients, or maybe only with some of them? And if you do that, how you do that, and what part does that actually play in your work as well?
Oh, I think that's a difficult part. I think it's very important, and I'm very open for conversation with people. But usually people aren't that open as well. So that creates kind of a barrier. But I think, personally, I think that it's important in order to evolve as a species that we acknowledge how powerful we are and where we're from. So yes, I try to take the conversation, because again, I can draw parallels back to my own depression. Like, my depression was basically based on me not believing in my own power. Me believing that I was only born into this existence and I had to work for 90% of my life, then retire, then die of disease, because that's what everyone else do. But I basically found it not to be true, that there is so much more to life, and that there is a God, or there is a creator, because there's no doubt whatsoever. The chance is 0% that Darwin and this whole reductionistic perspective of life is true. That's an agenda. So when I basically found that, that was what gave me the power to kind of look into my own astonishment. And I try to bring that on to my clients as well. But again, you don't get to decide what other people need to learn. It's basically their choice. So if they are open to learn these things, that's all right. But too few people are. Many people are still deeply rooted into this paradox that we are in right now. That's also why a lot of us people cannot sit around the dinner table and talk to our folks about this, because they're simply living in another world. So yes, of course I try, but it is difficult, because you cannot force anything down upon people.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, I like the approach as you described it. It is not that people come to you and basically are expecting them to push down their throat whatever you want. But you need to be very sensible in terms of, like, for example, I'm having different conversations with different people on the podcast, and I just feel with some people, they are actually asking for a different approach, for a different topics. With you, there has been so free exchange of all these topics that I'm deeply interested in. And since the beginning, when you started talking, I just felt that, you are just setting the right circumstances and the right basics for just sharing openly as well from my side. So there has been the settings to share openly about these things that we shared. With some other people, it's not like that. It's kind of, it's very much, it's much more on the surface, more mechanical. Let's say we share more about this materialistic point of view, which is fine, absolutely fine, because other people are interested in that kind of view. So I as well believe that this specific discussion will find its specific listeners. So I like that, and I can resonate with that. Just my I was curious just to hear, where this intangible as well knowledge about the higher self, the higher creator, or whatever higher powers comes in, and what roles it plays in your way how you work with people.
Yeah, sure. I think it's very important, and I also just think it's very important in life to have a curiosity of where we come from. Basically, that I don't see in in so much people. But I think that a lot of these things come from the same source. I think that religion is based on these things. Many people are religious, but I think they're following more like a cult than they are following the real blueprint of what these universal truths are. I don't know, have you read the work, the Kybalion, the Seven Hermetic Laws?
No, I haven't.
No, they're basically laws describing natural parts of existing, like the laws of polarity, the laws of correspondence, all of these different laws that are describing everything there is in nature. So the law of correspondence, for example, is as above, so below. Like everything is fractal, everything is a replication of itself. Like when you see a lung, it's kind of the same as looking at a tree branch. When you see the brain neurons, it's exactly the same patterns as if you see the universe zoomed out. The law of polarity describes that two opposites basically are the same: hot, cold, anxious, courage, love, hatred. They are just varying degrees of the same. So kind of examining these laws led me to understand that there is a blueprint of the universe, some laws that we need to follow in order to thrive. And I believe that all religions basically come from these laws.
Perfect, amazing. Kybalion, you said, is the name of the work?
Kybalion, yeah, Kybalian, I guess, something like that.
It comes
Kybalion.
from Kabbalah, right?
I'm not sure. It's Hermeticism. The Seven Hermetic Laws. You can also look up.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. I can resonate with the laws. I've read them, probably some of them in different places, but it's very, very interesting to read the whole thing that you mentioned. Mads, sure. Amazing. Tell me how, if I want to work with you, how I can start working with you.
Well, I don't actually work one-on-one with so many people anymore because my company has expanded so much. So what we do now is we educate trainers. So I host my own workshops where I train people in groups. But the prerequisite for this is to have attended our online course first. So we have a very comprehensive online course where you will basically learn all of this quantum biomechanics stuff that I teach. So in order to train with me, this is the prerequisite, because I don't just train with anyone. I have to train with people who has a basic understanding of what I'm talking about. Otherwise, it would be, basically just a waste of time. So, so that is how you can work under my systems, either online or you can attend my workshops, which you have to, kind of have completed the online material first.
Okay, so we'll enter into the description of the podcast for everyone a link to your webpage where I believe the online course is, right?
Yeah, sure. It's called the Quantum Biomechanics Online Course, and then you will learn all these 7 stages of human biomechanics, basically.
Perfect. And then you said you run workshops, on-site workshops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when I go through the course, the online course, I can join some of these workshops with you, and I can get certified, or how that works.
Yeah, sure. You basically start by getting certified within the online course. So you need your diploma for the online course completion, and it is pretty basic. It's very comprehensive. You learn everything there is to learn about the fascia, multidimensional movement, your breathing, all that stuff. And from there, when you have the diploma, you can sign up for the online or for the offline courses or the in-person courses, where you can get your certificate of being a quantum biomechanics specialist. So we have this 3-part journey. Level 1 being the online course, level 2 being becoming the quantum biomechanic specialist, and then level 3 becoming a master trainer, kind of the same level that I'm on. So you can start coaching your own clients and hosting your own workshops. So that is basically how you learn it. A good place to start would definitely be the online course, because whether you're a professional, an athlete, a child, or an adult, you can complete the online course.
I see. Perfect. And do you do any like a guest speaking or lectures? Like, I mean, you travel around the world. Can you do something?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do basically whatever I'm invited to, public speaking, live podcasts, something like this. I still have some clients, some of my big football players I travel down to from time to time. But that's the beautiful part about my job. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. So I like that. I like the uncertainty, but still knowing that I'm on a path where everything is evolving, both myself and both my company and the people that I'm teaching.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, Mats, that's beautiful conversation. I really enjoyed every bit of it. I mean, I feel really inspired and enriched with what you've shared. So
I'm glad.
this is making a really nice episode, and I really hope that everyone that has been listening so far has been enjoying the conversation as much as I do. So thank you for being our guest today, Mats. It's been amazing to talk to you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me here. And I guess we're just here to make the world a better place. And hopefully your listeners will come into this or go away from this conversation with a higher feeling of enlightenment. I guess that's the part of our job, right?
I hope very much too. Well, everyone that has been listening, thank you so much for being with us today. This is Healing with Coherence. If you liked what you've heard so far and seen so far, please do share with your networks, because I think it is really important that other people can benefit from what Matt shared today with us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now. It will be beautiful support for our work. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next episode with our next guest. And at the moment, with Mads Tömörkènyi. I know I'm not pronouncing it exactly correctly, but that's my best. Thank you. Yeah, Mads, thanks a lot. See you all later.
Likewise. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you.